All right. So after a quick pause and some editing magic, it's going to be hard to see this, but this is the float bowl for the carburetor right here. Okay. This little plug was missing. We pulled this carburetor out, and that little plug was missing. So as the fuel came in here, it ran straight out the bottom of the float bowl. It was going straight into the intake. On the boat that they promised us, nothing was wrong with. You just put it in the water and drive it and start right up. It did start right up. She's running rich. So that was only one part of the problem. So we get a different carburetor. We throw another carburetor that we had out in the shop on it and solve that problem. So the next thing is it doesn't pump water. The water pump, I would say from what we've seen, the water pump had been run dry. Like somebody had started this in the driveway probably a few times because it was there. It wasn't like it had, when they get all dried up and they fall apart. No, this was heated up and it looked like it had been run dry. So we split the dry, put the water pump in it. All right, now she's pumping water. It runs. Now you have to pump it to start it like you should, I guess. We go out and throw it on the water, and it's making water in the bilge. So luckily the bilge pump was keeping up, and so we get down in the engine compartment, take a look. Well, where's all this water coming from? Because we checked and made sure all the plugs were in and everything was tight, in the manifolds and in the block, and they were. The oil/power steering cooler on the 454 Alpha, you have in the water line coming from the drive, you have an oil cooler for the engine oil, and then you have a power steering cooler for the power steering pump. That had not been winterized properly. It had took that, and what they do is they take the two coolers, they put end caps on them, and then they solder the two coolers together. It's one big long cooler, 4 lines on top, and then the water going through it. That thing was pushed apart. I mean, that had water in it and had froze. And luckily, it didn't damage the cooler. We were able to fix that cooler and put it back together. Still use it to this day. But so yeah, the boat that the guy promised us.
It was a runner.
Yeah, it was a runner. Yeah, it wasn't a runner.
Oh.
But we knew that. We knew that even without putting it in the water and testing it. We knew that just by your gut, by you.
Right.
There was no two ways. And so anytime you're looking,
we were kind of weighing the options of the unmolested boat versus something wrong with the engine, and him knowing engines fairly well.
And I'll go as far as to say, I mean, so let's step back from this for a minute though. What did we put into the boat after the fact? One, we got the aluminum propeller off. We put a $100 used stainless propeller on there, 17 pitch. Had a 19 aluminum. It needed a 17. We put a water pump kit in it, $50 or whatever there. We fixed the cooler, so a little bit of my sweat equity went there. And then the carburetor just happened to be one that we had laying around. So, I mean, we were able to get the $6,500 boat going for $6,550 or something. And it's been a great boat. I mean, we went, last year was the furthest we've taken it on one trip. Me and the kids took it during the summer, and we left Ludington and took it up to South Manitou Island, and we're up there for 3 days and then came back. And the night that we went up there, we ran in 24-inch chop, 2-foot waves. And then the day we came back down, we were running in 2-foot waves. And that's the video that you see, the Stinger 2020 summer, that's the 260 coming back down, and the shots of it on the water. And then there's some other pictures in there. It's been a great boat. But just, for me, it was no big deal. for somebody that doesn't have some carburetors laying around and is new to the boating, this could be a big pain in the ass. Because had somebody that wasn't playing with boats and all the time bought this boat, off to the marina you go for the carburetor. You know, that oil cooler that we fixed, I think they're around $400 plus the installation, and they're going to hit you for our $130 an hour labor, or 100 for a couple hours. I mean, that boat easily, that $6,500 boat easily could have set you back another $1,000 on top of it, or $1,500 depending on where you took it. So that's what this video is about. Is kind of you can, if you know what you're looking for and you take your time, the boats are out there. And there's some really good boats out there. The Mirage project we just did. I bought that boat for $2,500 a couple years ago for parts for the 260. We want to go to a Bravo drive, and eventually we want to go to a 540 motor in it. And obviously 454 Alpha combo, which that boat is, I mean, it's being taxed for everything it's worth. So we needed a Bravo drive. Shopped around. Cheapest way to get a Bravo drive was to buy a whole boat. And then we got the boat and went, geez, this is kind of a nice boat. It'd be a shame to scrap this. So we ended up pulling everything we wanted out. We pulled the whole drive line out. And we're going to repurpose everything in that drive line into our other boats, and then we put a small block Alpha back in there and bring it back to life. And again, that boat, at least the owner we got it from was really honest to an extent. He's like, yeah, I don't think it was winterized properly, which we know it wasn't, because I don't know what it is with oil cool. I know what it is with the oil coolers. They lay in the bottom on that water line at the lowest spot. And if you don't get some antifreeze down to them or get them drained out, they're sitting there with water. That boat, again, same thing. Oil cooler pushed apart on it. But that one, he said that it was making some water in the oil. And we looked all over. No freeze plugs are pushed out. We can't find any cracks. We're wondering if the motor doesn't have bad risers. And we might feature that on the channel this year, because we would like to take the 454 that came out of the Mirage and use it in the red boat with an Alpha combination. And I know some of you die-hard, go-fast guys are just going, geez, did he just say Alpha and 454? Mercury did it, man. I mean, we run one all the time. We use common sense. If you take a 454 Alpha combination and you go out on Lake Michigan in 4-footers and launch it and come down and torque load it, you're going to watch the gear set fly out of the back at warp speed. If you run it with some common sense, the Alphas are rated at 300 horse, the 454s were 330. I don't know how they got that 330 down to 300, but Mercury did it for 2 years. I think it was 88 and 89 or 87 and 88, right before they launched the Bravo. There's 454 Alphas out there. And if you're new to boating and you're looking at a 454 Alpha combination, they will run. Just beware. If you torque load the drive, you're probably going to see the upper set of gears come right out the back. They don't. I mean, I wish I had an Alpha shaft here. I mean, you wouldn't believe that you're putting a 454 to a shaft that small and a gear set that small. But they hold. I mean, we've been running it now for that boat 4 or 5 years.
5 years.
And it's been a great boat. We run it. We do run it in 3-4 foot waves sometimes, not intentionally, but every once in a while we run down for dinner or whatever to Pentwater and come out and the wind's blowing a little more than it was, and it's a great boat.
It's a great ride. You're not worried about getting bounced and slammed around, and it's very different than a 22. or
Yeah.
a cabin cruiser.
And we're gonna both of the Chris Craft boats, the Stingers. We're gonna go in depth a little bit on them this summer, and definitely take you guys for some rides on the channel. Where we at? I think that kind of covers those. Where we're at.
We were gonna kind of share with the jet boat and how we ended up with a non-running, upset interior
Yeah. So,
jet boat.
So
I was not enthused about this one because I don't see projects and what they could be. I just look at it and see what it is, and it was a disaster. It was a disaster and needed work, lots of work.
Oh, we'll have to find a picture of that thing when it's all sanded and just.
Yeah.
The best part. So I'm sanding it down. I'm just gonna paint it because the original gel coat got painted over, and so I got all the paint that they put on it off of the gel coat, and I'm out in the shop, and I'm just cleaning it up, getting it ready to put primer on it, and I got lacquer thinner on a rag, wiping everything down, prepping it to spray it with primer. And she walks in, and as I'm wiping it, she sees it with that wet.
The metal flake.
Yeah, the metal flake. Everything.
Flake.
She sees the wet old gel coat on there, and she goes, "Well, can't you just make it look like that?" I looked over at the shelf at the primer and the paint and the gallon of clear coat and went, "Yes, I can," because we just instantly went to one step. We grabbed the clear coat. We cleared over the old gel, and we called it a day. So I had you'll see the Cobra Jet in some of our videos, obviously. There's a cold start one up now of it, and it'll be going out to the lake next couple of days. We're gonna shoot a little footage of it. That boat, I had one. I had one that I bought out of Alpena for I think $2,500. Now the one I bought in Alpena, literally, really nice older gentleman had it. We went down through it in Grand Lake, fired right up. I drove it around Grand Lake, and nothing wrong with it. Brought it home, used it for 3 or 4 years before finally the old original 1979 engine finally went south. And before it blew up or anything, I knew it was getting tired, and I just didn't want to rebuild it. So I sold it. I sold it cheap. And I sold it with a bad end. I told the guy that bought it, "Listen, this motor's done. Either pull it out and rebuild it, or find another engine." And I was honest with them. I sold the boat for $600 on the trailer. You could still drive it, and they did. I don't know how much more they used it. Eventually, they blew it up, and then they started putting car engines in it. And it's bad enough to put a car engine in any boat, but let me tell you something about Oldsmobile car engines and throwing them in boats. Last time I talked to him, he'd put like 4 engines in it, and they were done. And
That's a lot more work than $600.
Right.
He must have really liked that jet boat.
So I liked that jet boat enough after I got rid of it. It was always kind of a sore spot with me that, I really miss that jet boat. So I found another one down in Detroit that they were asking like $3,000 for. So I go down to Detroit. Again, it's like 7 in the evening, get down there to this guy's house. And I get a story of a story. Now, he's got a signed title for the boat. Supposedly, the owner of the boat is in prison. But he used to work for him, and he's selling the boat to put the money in the commissary. But the boat's got to leave there because the house it's at is being sold like the next week. And I just looked at this boat that had a brand new motor. So I was told many times that night. That also had the distributor just laying between the carburetor and valve cover of the brand new motor. And finally, at the end of the day, I just looked at the guy, and we him-hawed around about some money. Well, he was him-hawing around. I wasn't. I looked it all over, and the seat bases needed to be rebuilt, and the motor was a lottery ticket at best. Yeah, it looked like it had been apart, but, I mean, I don't trust rebuilders. I like things that say Mercury on them, or Inmar, or, and that haven't been apart. And because I've seen a lot of motors rebuilt for boats that just don't hold up, don't last. I mean, don't take my word for it. Go to Mercury's website and listen to what they have to say about how they build their remanufactured engine line and the machining they do. And the only thing I'll ever recommend on this channel is if you find a good used motor that hasn't been apart, yeah, go for that. But as far as rebuilds, and I know the shop had, make sure they put some paperwork behind it, make sure they're going to stand behind it, and that's as far as we're going to go down that road. So anyways, so I tell the guy, I said, listen, the trailer's worth maybe $700. I said, the hull to me is worth $700. I says, $1,400. I says, $1,400 is, and I had the three. Like, I went down there thinking I was buying this, not this. And I came home with this. At least that's what
That's what I saw.
She's not proud. She's not proud of what I'd done.
No.
So let's fast forward to, I got the boat out of there for $1,400, and now it sits for 2 years in the back shop, and then finally we get around to getting it together. So we finally get around to getting it together. Well, come to find out, the reason the distributor was out of it, and I don't even know if they knew this, but the pin in between the gear and I don't know, the head, I guess, where your rotor goes, if you grab the gear, you could turn the gear. Like, it still would turn, like when it was in the engine, you could still see the rotor turn. But if you went and grabbed that, it would stop turning. So you weren't never going to time this right or anything. And so we put a different distributor in it, and we got it running. And we've run that boat for like 7-8 years now, and it faithfully starts, runs, doesn't knock. It does use oil. I would say we go through a quart of oil in that engine probably every 2 fill-ups on the tank, so every 30 gallons of fuel. Doesn't seem to smoke it, though. It smoke really bad, so I don't know, and someday when that engine goes south, I really want to open it up and see, because the story I got with the engine was, that guy put thousands of dollars in the motor. He put every paycheck I gave him that whole summer went in that motor. He had money in it. And that may be true, because we have run the motor. Now, we don't run that motor hard, though. I mean, we periodically run it on the wide open, but we don't run from one end of the lake to the other. I mean, and we don't need to in that boat. That boat easily carries everybody at 35 mile an hour at 3,600 RPM. And we have opened it up. I mean, and we do. I mean, periodically somebody pulls up beside it. We might open it up. It runs out at 55 mile an hour on a good day. But it did end up being a good boat. But again, I mean, the deals are out there, but that boat would not have been any kind of a deal at $3,000. That would have been the dumbest decision I ever made. And even at $1,400, that boat
well, even at $1,400,
was questionable.
It sat for 2 years.
Right. Right. But it's been good. So, I mean, there's some good deals out there, and the one thing I'll tell you is you gotta really be careful, because then there's then there's how wrong can it go? And we've seen it go horrible. I've seen it go as wrong as it can possibly go. And I think we're hitting that. Yeah, we're on that page.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with a big twin engine speedboat that a friend of ours bought. And I mean, everything from it sinking to the motors not being right to this day, I think he's drove the boat one time,
I was gonna say twice, but yeah,
maybe twice,
yeah.
and you could have bought a small house for what's in that boat, and the boat will never be worth anything. And there's something to be said when you're looking at these old boats, because you'll see on this channel, we do a lot. There is a Sailrite sewing machine down in the basement that we can fix upholstery with. Air staplers. I mean, we play with boats a lot, so we have all the stuff, you know. And some of the stuff, let me put it this way: an air stapler to do. If you got a little pancake compressor, you can run over to Harbor Freight, get a decent little air stapler for $20, and buy some good stainless steel staples, not the Harbor Freight galvanized stuff, but get some good Aero stainless staples. And you got an old boat where all the interior's coming loose. Flip them cushions over, bang, 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 bang. You know, maybe a little bit of plywood. Plywood used to be cheap before COVID. That's another story now. So, I mean, you know, you might want to have them knock off some money if there's some rotten plywood in a boat, because they ain't giving it away no more. I don't even know how much a sheet of marine plywood is right now, nor do I want to. But, you know, you find that boat that everything's perfect on it, you know, and the interior just needs a little work, and it's the right price. Yeah, go for it. But don't give them good money if the interior needs work, because one trip to an upholstery shop for a boat, it's a skill, it's an art, and they get paid for it. They're not gonna go in and reupholster your boat for $500. I mean, I know people that have spent $3,000-$4,000 reupholstering a boat. You know, so if you're looking at a $3,000 boat, thinking, I'll just have that reupholstered.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your $3,000 boat might be a $6,000 boat. Then again, if it's something where you can refashion a bunch of the upholstery, you know, maybe you can work that angle, work that deal. Go, hey, you know what it costs to reupholster this? You know, when you get home and you fix it, and sweat equity.
Or if you're looking at a $6,000 boat and it needs $3,000 of upholstery, maybe it's a $3,000 boat.
And really, I mean, and that's where it's at. You know, I mean, you know, and keep those things in mind when you're looking at these boats, because this channel is all about boating. I mean, the more people that have boats, the happier we are. I mean, you know, feel free to shoot us a question and we'll try to get back to you. You know, I mean, you know, anything that you want to see a video on that is in our wheelhouse. Mercury Cruiser. I mean, we're Merc Cruiser people. We don't play with Volvos. We don't play with OMC Cobras. Nothing against them. Nothing, because somebody's going to say, well, why are they like that? Because we live in Ludington, Michigan. We can get parts for Merc Cruiser. We can get all kinds of parts. I can run over to the auto parts store and get a gasket to slide a stern drive on. I can get a water pump for a housing. We can get Merc Cruiser stuff. We don't have...
But we live in Ludington.
We live in Ludington. We don't have OMC and Volvo Beta down the road, so we steer clear from them. that being said, I think Volvo Penta makes an excellent product. And from what I've seen of some of the OMC stuff, the Cobras and stuff, which I don't even think they're making now, but some of that stuff's really good stuff. I like the OMC, the water pump impellers just right on the back of the drive. To take a couple of little bolts or screws and boom, it's there. You don't have to split the drive in half. I mean, what a great design. And so we're not anti anything. It's just we're Mercury people because of where we live. What else we got on this?
You wanted to mention something about automotive fuel pumps.
Oh, yeah. When you're looking at these used boats, things like bilge pumps, blowers, stuff like that, make sure all that stuff works. Then look a little further. One of the alternators and fuel pumps. Did Joe Sixpack have a leaky diaphragm in his marine fuel pump and pull that off and put an automotive fuel pump on there? I had this. I've had it on more than one boat. I've come across it. And for the record, you can get the kits usually to rebuild the marine pumps anyways. Usually it's just a ripped diaphragm. So if you're trying to get out on the cheap and not pay $100 or $200 or whatever, for whole assembly, usually you can fix them on the reasonable. Automotive fuel pumps have a weep hole in them. So when the fuel pump diaphragm goes bad or whatever, it starts dripping fuel on the ground. Interesting fact, where's your engine in a boat? And I had an old Owens before the one that we have now. I had a 1958 30-footer with twin 283s. And somebody had put an automotive fuel pump on, I believe it was the port engine. And I'm coming back from Pentwater on this thing. And oddly enough, at the spring marine parts, whatever, out here at the Casey's Hall they used to have, I was out there looking for, just looking at what they had at their spring, I don't know, it wasn't a swap meet, but, the vendors all come in and sell you their stuff. That year I happened to buy a flammable gas, a vapor detector for the engine compartment. On the cheap, I think I paid $49 or $50 for it. Little did I know it would probably save my life later that summer. I'm coming back from Pentwater, and that thing, it was a cheap one, and every once in a while, when the engines were hot, a little bit of vapor, and it might go to the warning or whatever, from the green safe. And I'm coming up, and that thing goes to the warning, and I don't think nothing of it, and I'm just putting back, and then it goes to the red alarm and starts making noise. I'm like, huh. So I didn't shut off anything. I'm just going down the lake. I hop out of the seat, and I reach down, I pick up the engine hatch, and right then and there, I knew it was party over. And I shut her down, and I had 30 foot of bilge full of gasoline. And right away, I mean, I started looking around, and boom, oh shit, automotive fuel pump. It didn't take me long to figure out what was going on. So ventilate everything the best we can. I got all the hatches open, the steering hatch open, the engine hatch is open, everything's open. I'm trying to fan it. And of course, it's a windy day out on the lake. So I let everything air out to where I'm thinking, okay, I'm okay. And I started up the starboard engine and came in on it. But yeah, automotive fuel pump, it can kill you. I mean, literally, it can blow your boat up. Dumbest thing in the world. So when you're looking at these boats, that's just a little thing to check off. Hey, I got the factory fuel pump down there, big round diaphragm with a little hose going up to the carburetor. So when the diaphragm fails, the gas all goes into the carburetor and floods out the carburetor, and you have a bad fuel pump. A good thing to look for. Same thing with alternators. Alternators, only a marine alternator. Make sure if it is the brush kind, it'll have the flame arrestor screens. If it's the brushless or whatever, it'll be open. But make sure marine alternator, because it doesn't always have to be a fuel pump that leaks gas. But you get a fuel leak down there, and you got an open spark, you're gonna have a bad day. Maybe. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. We don't want to see anybody have a bad day. What else we got on our hit list here? I know this is long, and I'm sure many people that have clicked on this have already left, but we're just kind of covering some stuff here.
No, I think that's about it. You covered pretty much everything.
Do your research. Do your research on these old boats. There's lots of fun to be had with them. There's no two ways about it. And the flip side of the coin is, if you're standing there and you're looking at that boat and you just get this feeling, or maybe you don't, maybe she does, listen to it. There's a reason. Sometimes we don't perceive things because we want the boat. And in our mind, we're out there sailing down the lake, having a good time.
You're buying the boat on the dream that could be.
Right. And somewhere in that little voice is back there going, "Hey, dummy, you're about to sign up for the worst thing you've ever experienced." Oh, and on that note, boat insurance and Towboat US is not that expensive. It's not nearly as expensive as not having it.
Also, keep in mind, if you're one of those people that are interested in owning a wood boat, insurance for a wood boat, on the contrary, is very hard.
Let's talk about wood boats for a second, just in case anybody's had a self-lobotomy lately.